All right, Parsha 101, Parsha for the first 2 days of Pesach. Really quick. The first section, the first day of Pesach, the Torah reading comes from the book of Shmos, the book of Exodus. We've gone through this already. It comes from Parshas Bo. So you can find a more detail of it to go back to the audio of the video for that section. So it's Bo, chapter 12, 21, verses 21 through 51. And it goes through the details of the Karban Pesach, the Paschal lamb, about you got to take the sheep and then you're going to dip the hyssop branch in the blood and you're going to spread it on the doorpost and on the lintel, and then you'll have this for all the generations. You know, say that God passed over. I'm going to pass over your house. You're going to tell how God passed over our house. And when you're going to come to the land, when it's not going to be the Exodus anymore, it's going to be a time in the future. And your children are going to ask you, what is this that you're doing? You're going to say, God took us out of Egypt. He passed over us, etc. So it goes through all that. It talks about how the Jewish people, they finally left exile, 600,000 men between the ages of 20 and 60. So I'll say they're much more than that. And the total exile is 430 years, because according to where you start the count from. And for all times, this night, the night that we left Egypt, so which is going to be 2 nights from now, the night of the 14th of Nisan, which is now the 15th of Nisan, the night of the Seder, is called Leil Shemurim. It's always going to be Leil Shemurim for God, forever and always. And then it goes through some of the laws of the Karban Pesach, but how it has to be eaten and whatever. So that's the first day of Pesach. The reading for the second day of Pesach, talking about the Yontif, like the Chag days, is from the book of Vayikra, so Leviticus, and it's from Parshas Bechokosai. So it's from the last Parsha of the book of Leviticus, and it's chapter 28, verses 16 through, I think it's like 20-something, 25 or something. And it goes through, this is actually the section where it lists a lot of the holy days. So first it tells us that you should know that an ox or sheep or goat has to be at least 8 days old before it can be sacrificed. The mother and the child are not supposed to be sacrificed on the same day, etc. Keep my commandments, don't desecrate my name, and I'm going to be sanctified among you, etc. These are all things that God's saying to the Jewish people. Now while we're at it, these are my holy days, right? Hashem tells Moshe, tell the Jewish people these are the holy days, they got to keep them holy. First one, it starts up with Shabbos. Why does it start with Shabbos? So Rashi, foremost commentator of the Torah, says to show us that keeping Chag and keeping Shabbos have the same kind of import. Even though some of the laws are a little bit different, so you should know that it's as weighty one or the other. These holy days, the relevance and significance of them, such for God, are the same. First one talks about is on the 14th day of the month of Nisan. Well, it says the first month, which we know is the month of Nisan. If there's going to be a Karban, you have the Karban Pesach, the Paschal lamb sacrifice. That night, well, for the 15th, which starts at night, is going to be Pesach, and there's going to be no chametz in your house, etc. They introduce something. It says this is going to be the time of your harvest, and from the second day of Pesach, which in Israel it's not Chag anymore. In the diaspora it is Chag, but it's not Chag anymore. You're going to bring the Omer from your harvest to the Kohen. And what's the Omer? It's 1/10 of an ephah. That's the measurement of it. And there's going to be a whole wave offering, etc. Why is this important? Because you're not allowed to partake of any of the new grains until the Omer is brought up, until the Omer is offered. And then from there, you're going to count 7 weeks. And after the 7 full weeks are complete, on the 50th, there's going to be another sacrifice that's going to be brought. This is going to be from the new harvest. And now, and everything, and everything's going to be good. So if you've ever noticed, sometimes on food packages, it will say the word yashan on it. You might have seen that. And that's because it's referring to the previous year's harvest. So because there's still certain aspects of this that are kept and regarded in Israel according to certain, it's called from the laws of kosher, but just because it encompasses all the laws of eating in the harvest, that it still applies in Israel. Or that it still applies, they say also maybe outside of Israel, but you might have seen on packaging before, certain companies will have it. So it talks about you're going to bring the Omer, and that's also, here obviously we count the Omer, but we call it counting the Omer. Okay, obviously we're leading up to Shavuos, but this is where we get all the numbers for it from. So what you're going to bring on the second day of Pesach, you're going to bring the unblemished lamb. That's going to be a Karban. You got 2/10 an ephah of flour to go with it, and you're going to mix it with oil, and then you're going to have a quarter of a hin of wine, kind of stuff that we've seen before. Now, when it comes on the 50th, the sacrifice, this meal offering that's going to be brought, or the grains that are going to be brought are going to be from the new harvest. and it's going to be these 2 loaves that are going to be brought along with a whole 7 one-year-old lambs and a young bull and 2 rams, and that's all going to be an olah offering, the scent offering. Then you're going to bring a male goat for a sin offering, and then 2 lambs for a peace offering. I know that this day, this 50th day, which we call Shavuos, is going to be a holy day for all the generations. Then from there, it talks about, it squeezes in something that's called Peah and Leket, which has to do with the harvest, and we're talking about the harvest. With the harvest, a corner of your field is supposed to be left over for the poor, and also there's the gleanings, like if some stalks fall out or whatever, you're supposed to leave it there for poor people to come gather it. And then it tells us on the first day of the 7th month, which is the first day of the 7th month is Rosh Hashanah, because the 7th month is Tishrei. That's going to be a holy day for you. It's going to be remember of the shofar. The 10th of that same month is going to be Day of Atonement, right? That's Yom Kippur. No work. It repeats no work several times. It's supposed to be a day of affliction. Anyone who doesn't listen to this is severe punishment of kares, like it's a cutting off that occurs. It's this great spiritual punishment that occurs. And then it says on the 15th of that same month, so we're still in the month of Tishrei, is going to be Sukkot. Sukkot is not, it doesn't commemorate something specific the way Pesach does. The way Rosh Hashanah is when man was created. There's Yom Kippur, as Moshe came down from Har Sinai with the second set of the Luchos, right? So Sukkot does it. This is the day that God told us you're going to Sukkot. It's going to be a joyous holiday for you. That's going to be, it's called the holiday of the ingathering. We gather in the produce. So it's very specific to say, because especially the Jewish calendar is a lunar calendar. So you got to make sure that it's going to add up, because there's less days in the lunar calendar than the solar calendar. So this is how we know that we're going to have leap years. We have, like this year was a leap year, or extra days to fill in to make sure that Sukkot occurs in this ingathering time. Because otherwise it just says, first day of the 7th month. That's not seasonal specific. But Sukkot is a seasonal specific holiday. That tells us about the 4 kinds, Pri Etz Hadar, which we call an esrog, and what we know as a dasim now, what we know as a ravas now, the willow branches, and the date palm frond, which is the lulav itself. And it says 7 days you're going to sit in a sukkah, and Rashi explains this reminds us of the clouds of glory. God says you're going to sit in a sukkah because when they came out of Egypt, they sat in a sukkah. What is that supposed to mean? Okay, these are the clouds of glory that protected us, and then it goes back again to talk about Pesach. Pesach, you're going to bring 2 young bulls and a ram, and 7 lambs are going to be the Pesach offering in the base of Mikdash, and there's going to be a male goat that's going to be a chatas. And that is what the first 2 days of Pesach, first 2 days of Chag, that's what their Torah reading are about.